Welcome back to Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin here at our Restoration Nation. Today, we have a national treasure that we're going to be sharing with you. And it truly is a national treasure. Right now, it's being nominated to be a National Historic Landmark. Welcome to Gloucester. Gloucester was started in 1803 by the Young family as a beautiful federal-style home. The east part of the house, these 5 bays, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, are the original part of the home that was built in 1803. In 1804, Mr. Young's wife Anna passed away, and he sold the property, and it was sold to William Sargent. Sargent had been the Secretary of the Northwest Territory. He was a Federalist. He was a veteran of the Revolutionary War, and he was appointed governor of the Mississippi Territory, which at that time included Alabama and Mississippi. And he bought this beautiful federal property with its Flemish bond brick, its beautiful federal fan light over the door, and an architectural detail that we really only see here in federal buildings in Mississippi, the detached side lights. When Sargent bought the home, there was no portico under which we're standing right now. He undertook to add the west side of the house, 3 bays on. But as it was still the federal period, we had to have symmetry. So we have another front door and 2 more beautiful windows on the other side. Sargent worked with 2 of his acquaintances, one by the name of Hunt and one by the name of Blennerhassett, to design the extension of his beautiful home. The extension included, as I said, the 3 bays to the west, the addition of the dry moat to provide circulation to the bottom floor, and the addition of the beautiful half octagonals on either end of the house. Blennerhassett is important because he did not get to finish his contribution to the expansion of his house because he was in jail as a co-conspirator of Aaron Burr. Once he was released, he was allowed to continue his cooperation on this property. It's one more piece of the beautiful historic puzzle that makes up the picture that is Gloucester. Gloucester is a home that had enslaved servants. There are 2 extant buildings that have enslaved housing. We will show you those. One is the original kitchen, the most intact federal period kitchen, detached kitchen here in Mississippi, and the other is the billiard house. So we'll be showing you those as well. And Gloucester is haunted. So the current owners tell us we have a housekeeper who gets very angry when there are large parties here. And we have the ghost of a gentleman who died upstairs 3 days after being shot on the back portico. So come inside and let's see the incredible federal architecture that is Gloucester. Welcome into Gloucester. We are standing in the original 1803 front entry hall. And here you can see just the picture of a federal newel post and handrail. I do want to point out, this is the only other example of a broken handrail that I've seen in all of our restoration journey. The only other place I've seen it is in a home of a similar period in Starkville, Mississippi. So I'm wondering, is this a vernacular element common here only in Mississippi? We're standing in the cross hall, which has these beautiful arched entries with fan lights into the original front entry hall. So next, let's take a look at what would have been the original formal parlor, which contains the oldest marble mantelpiece in Mississippi. Here we are in what would have been the original formal parlor, entering off the left of the main entry of the original federal section of this property. And over my right shoulder, you see the first marble mantelpiece brought into the Mississippi Territory, original to the 1803 build period of this home. It is an exquisite example of craftsmanship and such an amazing piece of history. This has now been turned into the library for the home, and you can see beautiful built-in bookcases with incredible federal detailing. High ceilings with beautiful cornice work showing federal detailing of Greek key and dentil. And an incredible plaster medallion in the center of the room featuring a baccarat crystal chandelier. Here we are in what would have been the original formal dining room. We have a hint to the original function of this room by the plaster medallion in the center of the ceiling. Of course, we see the classical theme of acanthus leaves, but we also see grapes running around that ring. The depiction of edibles is often a signal for what's going on in the room. Something to eat on the ceiling, something to eat on the table. The mantelpiece in this room is absolutely exquisite. It is black marble from Africa, which was imported to Italy and carved and then brought here to Natchez, Mississippi. Again, we have the incredible fan lights over the doors entering into the cross hall, and the original 12/12 windows surround this room. In the original dining room, we have another amazing architectural feature. We have a 3-sash walk-through, pass-through window. When closed, these original 3/3 6-light sashes would have closed all the way to the floor, letting in more natural light and being a window. But on evenings when entertaining was being done and we wanted a wonderful cross breeze, these could have been opened during entertaining and guests could have exited onto what was then the back porch from the dining space. An incredible original feature still functioning today. Another architectural treasure in many of the rooms here in Gloucester are the original built-in interior shutters, paneled into the wall, and each evening the home would have been closed up for bed, so servants would have come and closed all of these windows to darken the spaces for the evening. Welcome into the new part of Gloucester, built in 1807. You'll note, again, in the federal style, we have mirrored what was on the other side, the earlier side, the 1803 period, here in the 1807 period. We have on the exterior of the facade, it's very important to note that we have an identical fan light, the double front doors, but on the interior, you'll note there are no side lights. But from the exterior, we see shuttered detached side lights. That's how important symmetry was. We would create architectural elements that served no practical function whatsoever, but we had to have them for the rules of architecture. Here we see the 1807 banister and handrail. You can see the evolution of architecture right here. We're only 4 years later, but we're much more ornate. We've lost the verticality and we've gone to a much softer, curved banister and newel post. And we see a change here in the spindles as well, from the hard, strict lines of the square spindles to these beautifully tapered, rounded spindles. The brackets on the two staircases are slightly different. We see a little bit of evolution in style in those as well. Remember, we're in a federal period home, so painted wooden surfaces are absolutely the norm. On many of these wooden surfaces, we see a solid cream paint color, very, very common. But many of our interior doors are treated with this beautiful faux bois finish. And interestingly, it's on many doors in areas that we would consider informal areas. The exterior doors exiting onto what would have been the back porch, going down into the basement, but then also here on both sides of the entry hall, both from the 1803 period and the 1807 period. But let's take a look off to our left from the new entry into the grand dining room. Here we are in the amazing formal dining room of Gloucester. Behind me, you see the half octagonal wall, which, if paired with the other end of the house, moved together, would make a beautiful octagon. Look what we have above the dining table. Another gorgeous plaster medallion depicting what? Grapes and grape leaves, a symbol for plenty. We have another beautiful African black marble fireplace. And I'm surrounded by original 9/9 hand-blown windows. I see initials scratched. Let's see if you can see them. Here we have the enclosed back porch. Originally, this was an open space. When built, Gloucester was a single pile design, which meant it was only a single room deep. So this would have been open, an open breezeway. And these are the original Federal era servant stairs where the enslaved peoples who served here at Gloucester would have accessed the top floors of this property. And now we're on the central landing up from the original 1803 staircase. A small space and an informal space. You'll see the treatments around the windows and the baseboards are very simplified from what we see downstairs. I would like to point out that the current owners have gone to great expense and effort to find gorgeous Victorian era gasoliers that they've had converted to electric lights to use in all the rooms of this home. here we are at the opposing end of the house where you can see the second half of the octagon behind me. This is now being used as the main bedroom, but as you can see, the finishes in here, original to the house, are quite simple. A very simple mantelpiece, beautiful but simple wooden cornices, fairly low baseboards. But you know how you make a room that's simple like this very elegant? First of all, make it enormous, and second of all, hang a baccarat crystal chandelier in the middle of it. Off of this room, we have the main enormous bath with great closet space. The basement at Gloucester has been built out in grand style. A formal library, bedrooms, bathroom, and casual lounge area would make an absolutely marvelous living space for an innkeeper should you choose to turn Gloucester into a bed and breakfast or event facility. The landscaping of Gloucester is extraordinary. In many ways, it mimics the grand gardens of classical design that we see in England. It's so valuable because it retains much of its original design as documented by William Sargent. The portico and grand colonnade we see on the front of Gloucester is not original. It was added sometime between 1817 and 1823, when the neoclassical period became popular in American architecture. It is unusual in that it has no entablature. Gloucester retains two original outbuildings. The first is the oldest pre-Civil War kitchen in the United States. It retains its original cooking fireplace with crane and is flanked by an original metal-lined large stew hole and a bake oven. The second floor of the kitchen is where enslaved workers would have been quartered. The second original outbuilding is the billiard house, the bottom floor being the billiard room, a popular place for entertaining, and the second floor would have been quarters for enslaved workers at Gloucester. Across from the home is an associated family cemetery. We see here a large monument to William Sargent. However, Sargent was not buried here. He was buried at sea, and only his monument stands in remembrance to him. Other members of the Prentice family are buried here as well. We hope you've enjoyed this preservation journey with us, looking at a national treasure of a home begun in 1803, added on to in 1807, completed in about 1820, owned by a founding father, partially designed by a co-conspirator of Aaron Burr, and a monument to American architectural history. We'd like to remind you, we are not the realtors. We are not realtors at all. We are here to give you architectural education and history. However, this beautiful home does happen to be for sale, and you could be its next caretaker. Sitting on 6 acres, comprised of beautiful gardens, dependencies, and a family cemetery, this gorgeous home could be yours for $1.99 million. We'll link the realtor's information in the description below. If you think you could be the next caretaker of Gloucester, give her a call. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin at Our Restoration Nation.